Hey, I think I sent you into a breakout room. You should have gotten an invite. Oh, I don't think I can hear you.
Yep, I got it. I was setting up for the presentation. So I just
Oh,
tried.
then you don't have to join a breakout room if you're still setting up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Franny,
Yes.
can you just tell me if you hear this video?
Yeah.
Today we are going to be reading.
Yeah, so I hear it, but it's through your speakers and it's not like I totally hear it. And if that's what we have to do, then totally fine. But I don't hear it, I think, in the way you're intending for it to be heard.
All right, let's see. Do we do audio settings?
When you share your screen,
Uh-huh.
uh, there's a little box that's like share audio as well.
Got it. Yep. Okay, let's try that. Let's see how that sounds.
The Day He Begins by Jacqueline Woodson.
You didn't hear
So,
that?
so are you sharing your screen right now?
No, let me
Try that. Yeah. And when you click share screen,
Yeah, I clicked on the little
okay.
thing, so let's see how that goes.
Hi. Today we are going to be reading.
I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you heard it went through the system?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because, well, I clicked it. Maybe, let me try clicking it again.
Day He Begins by
Oh,
Jacqueline Woodson.
that's even better. Whatever
Okay.
you just did,
Yeah,
that's even better.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Great.
All right, thank you.
And now I'm now realizing I don't know how long people have been in breakout rooms. Maybe, I don't know if they're still talking. Maybe they're still talking. I can never tell because I like don't go into the breakout rooms.
Right.
So then I'm like, how long does it take to talk about a family tradition? Hi, Shauna. People are in breakout rooms talking about their favorite family or friend traditions. So I'm going to send you into a room.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin, I'm going to send you into a breakout room. People are talking about their favorite family or friend traditions.
Thank you.
And so, oh, go ahead, Colby.
Oh, I think Colby already got the prompt. It's favorite family and friend traditions. I'm going to send you into it might not be in your original breakout room, but I'm going to send you back in.
Okay, thank you.
That didn't sound like Colby to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
All right, so the agenda you had sent out said I'm supposed to do 5:40 to 6:15.
Yeah, so basically 15 to 20 minutes of you and then just questions. And we always build in a little bit of extra time because there's usually something that is happening. Like right now, it's currently 5:40 and we're going to come back in and Zeke is going to say something and then yeah. So
Okay.
maybe I'll close the breakout rooms. I feel like that seems like a good thing to do. I'll give them 60 seconds. And then when I close breakout rooms and some people don't come back like instantly, then I feel like I didn't give people enough time. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Hey, Tika. Oh, he can't hear us. I'm also realizing my Zoom background is not stellar and there's like a bike behind me. If I do that. Welcome back, everyone. I think some people are still coming back.
Person
All right.
then moves to support and rethink what that core team is going to look.
Thank you, baby. All right, welcome back, everybody. My daughter has drawn a cat, if anyone is interested.
Good job.
Do we start bidding?
Do we start bidding for it? On this cover, can we?
Yeah, and a butterfly. This one's pretty good.
So pretty.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a firefly.
Firefly, Dad.
Oh, it's a firefly? Oh.
Don't even know if it's a butterfly or.
All right, get out of here. Mwah. Bye. All right. So welcome back, everybody. So quick shout out. Wanted to shout out to Franny, our amazing fellow who. No, baby, I'm in a meeting. Can't give me any pretend food right now.
You can eat that for the meeting.
Why does everything happen like when you're trying to share the meeting? No, you cannot give me pretend food. No, you cannot have my lemonade. Goodbye, Boo Boo.
You don't have to eat it, but you just.
All right. All right, I love you. Goodbye.
You don't even have to hold it. You just do this.
All right.
Like that.
Yummy, delicious.
How do you real kids?
Okay. Shout out to Franny, who scored in the top 0.1% of the LSAT. For those paying attention at home, that is better than 99.9% of people out there. So they don't make them like Franny too often. But huge congratulations. And we are very, very, very proud of you. So keep it up. And you'll have to let us know where you're going to law school and when we can write you a check when you run for president.
Thank you, Zeke, and fingers crossed on getting into law school. I will keep you updated.
I would say as the 0.01%, you should be good. I would hope. All right, great. Any other shout outs that we want to do? Anybody else before we get cracking? Thank you, baby. All right, hearing and seeing none, I am going to affectionately pass the mic to Dr. Kyla Liggett-Creel, our very own, who is going to talk to us about some of the challenges facing trans young folks, particularly, I believe, in our medical system, for our DEI portion. And we are then going to jump into our committees, but really excited for Kyla to deliver this conversation. I know this is something Kyla's really passionate about and has personal lived experience dealing with. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Kyla.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Honored to be here and see you all. I'm coming really different today. I'm not here as Dr. K. I'm here as a mom. And I thought I would get further than this, but I want to introduce you to my child. And I want to tell you a little bit about our journey and why I'm bringing it to you all. You are the best of the best. And as a mom, I'm here to say, I need your help. So this is my child who, this was during the pandemic, March he decided he wanted to read books to young children who were stuck at home and couldn't be in school. So this was 2.5 years ago.
Hi, today we are going to be reading The Day You Begin by Jacqueline Woodson, illustrated by Rafael Lopez. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there will be quite like you.
So that is my youngest, my V. And so that was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And in September of 2020, he came to me and said that he was feeling really sad a lot. He had low self-esteem. You know, I'm a social worker. His dad is a social worker. So, you know, that's why we have little ones coming and explaining their emotional and mental state with us. You know, when he said that, we immediately accessed mental health services because we know how important it is and that he needed support. He, at that point, was going by she, her, and had come out as being a lesbian, and with our full celebration and support. We started the therapy in December of 2020. They assigned a social work intern, which was fine because, you know, we were talking about sort of preteen angst and low self-esteem and just needing somebody to talk with. In March 2021, we found out that he had started cutting. We were surprised by this and sort of like, well, you know, where did this come from? And come to find out, he had been triggered in therapy with the therapist, and the therapist did not tell us. And so we didn't know that he was sitting in his room crying because the therapist hadn't said anything. So we then went to the supervisor of the intern and said, you know, now this is too high risk for an intern. We need to have a therapist who is licensed, credentialed, and can handle this level of need. And the agency said, we don't have anybody, sorry. And so here we have a child who is 12 years old, 11 years old, cutting, anxious, and a therapy agency saying, we don't have anybody, good luck. Here's some phone numbers. We reached out and was able to find a therapist relatively quickly, 2 months later, because we had the connection. We knew how to advocate. And so 2 months later, he was on medication for anxiety, and this is how he woke up one day.
Watermelon shirt, watermelon shirt. 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 Watermelon shirt.
So as you can see, a sudden onset of severe tics. We called the psychiatrist 12 times that day to say we need help, and he didn't answer. So we had to go to the ER. So we went to the ER, and you know, they said take him off the medication, fine. So we did all of that. We started with new therapy. He couldn't go to camp for the whole summer because the tics were too bad. The anxiety was too bad. And we found a therapist who would work with us. We are a transracial adoptive family. So my husband and I are both white, and as you can see, my son is African American. We specifically looked for African American therapists who would be supportive and thoughtful and sensitive to a LGBT, right at that point was out as a lesbian, identified as they, them, in a transracial adoption home. The therapist very rarely wanted to meet with us as a family and only wanted to meet with our son. I think because she didn't know how to do family therapy and was trying to skirt around it. And I addressed it at one point, and V was outside of the room. And when V, and I talked to the therapist about it, and when V came into the room for family therapy, the therapist, African-American therapist, said to V, okay, your parents have given me my 50 lashes, so I guess we can start with therapy now. That's inappropriate. That's extremely inappropriate. Couple weeks later, my son came out as transgendered and said, you know, identified as he, him. And I said, great, okay, wonderful. Let's, you know, figure out what you need for support. And when I went to the family therapist again, in front of my son, he said, the therapist said, well, I'm sure this is hard for your mom because she's having to grieve the loss of her child. And I said, well, I'm not grieving the loss because my child is right there. He's right here. I can't grieve losing somebody that is still here for me, still with me. So the therapist told our son, you know, anything you need, anytime you need anything, you know, reach out, call me, you know, I'm here for you. So one night my son was having thoughts about killing himself. And he did. He called the therapist. She didn't answer. She didn't respond. So he took 15 pills. And we ended up in the ER. And so this is part of why I bring this to you all, is until I was in there with my son, I had no idea. This is where they had my son for a week. This is what is happening to our children who are having severe mental health crisis. This is it. This is where he sat for 7 days with no services. And this is happening all over the state. The children are sitting in rooms like this with no services, no therapy, no medication changes. They're just lying here with no support during a time where they've tried to kill themselves or they want to die. And this is how they're treated. He laid there for 7 days with us advocating all the way up to Senator Lamb's office, talking to the head of social work, saying this is not okay. And there was just no services, nothing happening to support a 13-year-old who had just tried to kill himself. And of course, limits on how often parents could be there, family could be there, what kind of supports we could offer, how often we could call. That this is all he got while he was in that hospital. And he wasn't allowed to go anywhere. He just laid like that for 7 days with no help. Then one night, and the way it works is that every day, the hospitals call other hospitals to see who has a bed available. If anybody can open up an inpatient bed for a child who needs a placement. And so one night, 10 minutes before this meeting, I got a phone call from the hospital where my son was, and they said, oh, we have some news for you. And I said, great, what's the news? And they said, Well, it's mixed. We found a hospital and they said that they do have a bed available for your son. And I said, great, thank you. So finally he can get services. Finally he can get some support. And they said, well, the problem is when they found out he was transgender, they wouldn't take him. I said, I must have heard that wrong. What? And they said, well, we have a room for a boy or a girl, but we cannot take a child who's trans. Poor Anne got a hysterical call from me, sobbing. Senator Lamb's office got a call from me, sobbing. And then we moved on to, oh, so you want press at the front door of your hospital tomorrow morning, saying you are denying medical services for a transgender child. That's what I'm hearing. 3 hours later, they had a room. But I had to say, I will have press at the front door. But, you know, this is what I found when I went to get my son to take him to the hospital, was that he had just spent all day writing AU on his arm because he was getting no support, no medication, no services, no nothing. And this is how bad the compulsions had become. So, you know, he was inpatient. He got really good services for a week. He was discharged, and we were very grateful for the services that he received. But, you know, at discharge, we couldn't go to the old therapist because she really had behaved unethically by making promises and not following through and not keeping our child safe. So we had to find a new therapist, which we did, who was wonderful and is at Chase Brexton and specializes in supporting LGBTQIA kids, but it was limited, only 8 sessions. Well, that's not going to work. 8 sessions isn't going to help with what we need help with. But we did, you know, when he went back to school, he had a major anxiety attack. The school didn't tell us. So he was home for 2 weeks vomiting because we didn't know that he had had a panic attack. When we did get him back into the school, it took us an entire quarter to get him back into school. When I talked to the counselor at the school about why didn't you tell us that this has happened, we could have offered some support. He said, well, I did talk to him about it, and I told him I was getting divorced and I was having a hard time too, and that, you know, it was just hard to deal with these kind of things. Just like, are you kidding me? So he missed the first quarter of school and failed the second quarter of school. And so, you know, we were able to, this past summer, send him to a camp for trans kids. And I'll show you just so that you can see, you know, there is some other side of this horror story. That this was him when we were driving him to the camp, where he was going to be with all, you know, queer kids. And when he came home, he sobbed and said, I feel like somebody finally saw me. And, you know, he's been able to start school again. And he has all A's and B's. But today, you know, he has, and he's given me permission to share all of this. He has passive suicidal ideation again. And the therapist says we get 5 more sessions. So you have 2 parents who are master's degree, PhD, social work, connected all over the state on mental health, advocating for their child. And we're in a situation again where we have a therapist saying, I can do 5 more sessions and then that's it. and we don't have anybody else who can help you. And the 1-year anniversary is in 3 weeks. So I bring all of this, I asked Anne if she thought this would be helpful for me to share our story, and sort of why I wanted to do this. One, our journey continues. I think in this work, we hear a lot of stories that are, oh yeah, we heard that this is going on, or we read an article that this is happening. And I wanted, to just put a face, a name, and a story behind what this is like, as a mom. And, the therapists that we've had 5 in 2 years. And not because we're not showing, not because we're not compliant, but because most of them sucked. I mean, they were unethical. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't trained. So we've had to make those changes. So we have to do something about the quality of training for therapists. We have to make crisis intervention in the home more accessible without police involvement. We've sat on the floor in our house trying to support our son who was at risk of hurting himself. And with having a Black son, we will not call 911. We can't. And so it was up to my husband and I to figure out how to best support him in the home, because some of those emergency services are not a possibility for us. Make mental health treatment available in the emergency room. Sitting for 7 days, 10 days, 14 days with no services is not okay, and it's hurting our children. And it's making them worse, and it's sending a very clear message that they don't matter. And so when they've already thought or tried to kill themselves, that's not the message that we should be sending. We need to advocate for more mental health beds in the state of Maryland. That's why there's the backlog in ERs, and that's why children are sitting for days and weeks with no services. It's because there's no beds. And then increase access to LGBTQIA supports in the state. That camp that we sent V to, it was only 1 week this summer, and that's it. And it was huge for him. I think it was life-changing for him. But now we're looking at how are we going to find a therapist who can work with a transracially adopted transgender 13-year-old with passive suicidal ideation with Tourette's. Not a long list. So, Anne and Zeke, thank you for letting me do this, but I just wanted to put a face and name and story to what we're all working towards. And I'm happy to take questions or comments if anybody has.
First of all, just so brave, Kay. We're just literally extending our love and hugs to you. And while that may not solve the issue, just know that we are here. So brave of you to do this. Just thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, I echo that, Kay. Thank you for sharing that story. It definitely highlights how there are two stories that are told a lot of times about trans youth, and that our Black and brown trans youth, their experiences aren't always included in that. And definitely stand beside you as someone working to fix that. So thank you for sharing.
Hey, Doc K, this is Corey. In the chat, I went put I know youth, they need other youth that's like share the same struggle. So in the chat, I went and put out resources that I would love your son to go ahead and check out. You of course that's going to go ahead basically help him out on his journey.
Thank you, sweetie. Appreciate you, bro.
I mean, I have so many questions and thoughts, but I just wanted to leave space for people to just appreciate the fact that you shared such a heartwarming story. You touched on some challenges that, we have certainly brought up over the last few months that, I've been a part of these significant conversations and not enough beds. When you talk about not enough beds, then we're talking about the different types of licensing that behavioral health organizations have. And they get to choose which licensing they need, and it's costs to that, right? And then when you talk about, we also talked about insurance on the youth committee. My daughter in particular, not to switch stories, and my daughter hasn't given me permission to share this, but she's had her own, she's 23 now, but had her own issues. And then her boyfriend had a panic attack one time. We had the same experience. And because she's on my health insurance, shout outs to Baltimore Crisis Response. Just my own personal story. They helped me, many, many years ago, and I wanted them to help my daughter. And they couldn't take her because she had private insurance. She would have had to been on Medicaid. And then we went to Shepherd Pratt, and she was, they couldn't find her a bed, so they put her on outpatient services. And I'm like, I'm in public health. Like, no, she literally tried to kill herself. She can't be an outpatient. So, your struggles over a much longer period of time, but we have some truly really deep inherent challenges within the system. In addition to the training and the people, you have people at the front lines that also need probably to be in beds also. So it's just this never ending cycle. And my heart just goes out to you because you're still in the middle of it. So I just wanted to uplift that. I'm not sure which committee, it seems like all the committees would be part of this conversation, but there are some truly inherent challenges, and it seems more like a state issue as well, and not just a Baltimore City issue.
Thanks, sis.
Yeah, Dr. K, that was so powerful and really needed. And the thing I was struck by in your story is how many adults, professional adults who should know better, who didn't act better. And that just, I see that so often in education with people whose job it is to work with young people who are transitioning, or and they are entrusted with the care and safety of young people, and yet use abusive language towards their gender identities. And students who I know personally have been hospitalized for suicide attempts that have to come back to school and then face the same kind of abuse from adults. I'm not talking from other kids. It's like finding ways to figure out how the people who are supposed to be showing the care that we need to show the care that are just not capable.
Yeah, 100%. We have a teacher this year who misgendered him 3 times. And I went in and finally just was like, it's done, it's over, and had to get the vice principal in.
Yeah, I would just echo Kim and Dan and everyone's points and just say, Dr. K, Dr. Kyla, we love you and we love your son. And, to me, again, what it elevates is not that your son is broken, but that the systems around him are, and that's what needs to be fixed. And I think a lot of times, we get fixated on the individual person and their challenges, but it just elevates so much systemic failure. We gotta do better. But all that to say, look, this is your community, and all 35 people on this Zoom and 1.5 million that are watching on YouTube love you. And anything that we can do, and I'd love to just think about this from more of a systems level. It does there. I think there are multiple layers and components and it's a really complicated picture that you just painted of systemic failure. But I just, speaking for myself as a trauma-informed care task force member and as a dad, frankly, just want to say that whatever we can do to support both personally and professionally, let us know. And, this does seem like something that we should collectively try to figure out some piece of, because it's deep and it's multi-layered. And again, just appreciate the vulnerability and you being willing to share publicly.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for allowing me to share. And I see messages that I'm going to go and read and respond to just in case. But thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Love you all.
We love you too. All right. So we are going to move into our subcommittees. We have a few new folks with us today. Excited to get to dig in and do the work. And again, Kyla's story is just a wonderful and horrible reminder of why this work is necessary and what a deep, deep hole we are in. But with that said, I'm going to ask Franny to send folks into groups. I'm going to be sort of floating around. So if you need me, just text and I'll come through.
Yep. So I just opened up the rooms. If you're in training, stay here in the main room. If you're in youth, medical, decolonizing, or policy, go ahead and at the bottom, you can select a room. If you are not seeing that option, message me and I'll hang out in the main room for a few minutes and I will put you in. So go ahead. If you're in the training subcommittee, please stay in the main room.
Can you put Leanne in my...
Yeah, I don't see any of the options.
Okay, so Elijah, where did you want to be put?
Youth.
Got you.
Put Leanne in you.
Yeah.
Me as well. Can you put me in youth as well? Just to see.
Yeah, it's not letting me get in. I hit youth and
Oh, that
join.
is so weird. Donna, I put you in youth. Are you still not seeing it? Oh, I guess she's gone, so it worked.
Kevin, policy.
Got you. And my apologies to training for taking over this room for a minute or two. Okay, anyone else in here that would like to be received?
Phil for youth.
Got you.
Corinne, it's Pot and Geese. Where should I go? Good to see everyone again.
Hi. Welcome back. I'm putting you in medical.
Sounds good.
All right, and Zeke, did you want to start in youth? Oh, I can't hear you.
Just kidding. Let me start here, if that's all right.
Yeah, and then do you see the options on your computer to select the breakout room at the bottom?
Yeah, I do.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right. I will turn it over to you guys. My apologies. See you soon.
Thanks, Franny.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, good people. Hey, Dave.
How you doing, Zeke?
I'm good, man. So I don't think Dave needs introduction in this group, but maybe he does. Dave is a phenomenal trainer. I had the pleasure of taking the mental health first aid course at Hampstead Hill Academy with Dave as one of the facilitators. He did a great job. There were a number of Golden City folks in the house. Corey Witherspoon has really been the champion for this project. And I think our goal is to bring mental health first aid to Pimlico. Sorry, Corey. Pimlico, and then potentially the other BCP schools as well. And with that, I'll pass it to you, Corey, to maybe share kind of the vision and then maybe hear from Dave.
Okay. Well, again, I love youth mental health first aid. I took it for adult and youth. I actually was a trainer for youth, so I know how impactful it is. It teaches you just as a bystander, not how to treat a person with mental health disability, but to go ahead and get them help and get them resources. And that's what we really need is to go ahead and make sure that people are seen and are helped. So I talked to my principal first about the, hey, we can, it's a chance that we can go ahead and get everybody, all the staff trained in mental health first aid, youth mental health first aid. And she was on board, talked to, of course, talked to the committee, talked to Councilman Zeke, and it started rolling after talking to Zeke. And he's like, well, what about the BCP schools? I went and talked to John McGill. John McGill is on board. And he's the head for the BCP schools. So this is really fitting to happen. And the beautiful thing about this is that, as I stated to the school commissioners, is that, imagine walking into a school and everybody is able to be trained to know what to look for, how to respond, how not to traumatize a person or individual. So, and this can be on up to the principal, on down to the receptionist, on down to the custodian, who really she passes every day, but really she's at times the first responder to go ahead and see a young person that's in need. So again, I'm a big, huge fan, and I love that for you to go ahead and hear more. Dave, can you speak and shed some more light?
And hey, before you do, Dave, apologies, because I'm gonna have to jump to a different group in a minute, but I do want to say the other really exciting thing is that we've got money to pay for it. So appreciate, Corey, all the hustle and heart that's gone into laying the groundwork. And we expect that our ARPA allocation will be here within the next 3 weeks.
Yes.
So we should be in good shape to financially support bringing the work. And with that, Dave, take it away.
Yeah, Zeke, before you go, because I mentioned this to Ann and Corey, I wanted to say, so obviously I believe absolutely mental health first aid. It's not a silver bullet, but I also just recommend, based on my work, it's great to have the staff, but also offer to the parents. It needs to be a community, so that a kid moves from one place to the other, you need to know. And the corner stores, we used to do asset mapping, where do kids congregate? And it may be the corner store, maybe get offered to everybody, because it's about first responders aren't police or EMTs, they're the last responders, right? They're there when we get the crisis. This is about not just prevention, but wellness. So who do we talk to when I'm having those first issues? I know schools I worked with, it was the custodians who the only people who had relationships with the kids, because nobody else believed in them. Nobody else stopped to talk with them. So that, I want to say that before you left. And then the other is teen mental health first aid has rolled out for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, because other kids are really the first ones that know. And then you get to the trusted adult, if they're adults that you trust, or while we're building that. So, we call it positive social epidemics. And I focus less on, I grew up in Baltimore City. Both my parents taught at Morgan, went to graduate school at Coppin, but everything we talk about is fixing people. I need to, for the kids to look at it, Corey or anybody else who's out there who looks like them, lives in them, and says, these are the people I trust. Who do I look up to help me go forward, not just to heal, because, just the absence of hurt doesn't necessarily mean the presence of capacity. So I think we got to balance both. Do all the mental health first aid so we can create a norm where it's okay to talk about it, if I'm struggling, and when things get worse, somebody knows what to do about it. But let's also promote the fact that there are absolutely brilliant, gifted people who live with mental illness. It's not who they are, but something they live with. So that's sort of the vision. I will do whatever you want because it's, it moves forward. But I think if you really want change, it can't be just one group of people. It's got to be all of us together. We may not take the same road to the destination, but as long as we're moving forward, we're moving.
No, I love that. I mean, Corey, how do you feel about trying to pull parents in?
And I love pulling parents in. That's a brave initiative, and hey, I'm on board. So this is also wraparound services. But the same thing that we're teaching in school, we're actually teaching at home as well. So I'm fully on board. Definitely. So I know we got a lot of great things to go and talk about. So thank you, Zeke, once again. You just hooked up Baltimore, our young people, to go ahead and be service in a great way. Thank you.
You did, but thanks, bro. Appreciate you.
The HBCUs are all in a process of getting trainers at their institutions and bringing mental health first aid to all the HBCUs. So that, I'm doing the trainers for them so that, my push is to get every student trained, the HBCUs to try and get it in orientation. But then, you can't wait till hope for the ones who don't get to college, get the kids in high school, so that everybody talks about mental health just like you going to a doctor or whomever. It's not something we do when something's wrong, but do something to stay well.
And that's the beautiful thing about elementary, middle school. It's both elementary school and a middle school. So we're talking about early intervention, and as it spreads towards your high schools and on college, it's just everybody speaking the same language and everybody giving that same extra level of supports. I do want to go ahead and say that train to train, that's big, and attempting, and this is another brave thing, to have a trainer at every site, because what we do know is that it's good to have every staff trained, but you have a point guy for certain issues, and having a point guy, a trainer at every site, as we talked about at HBCUs, think about Baltimore and this talking about Morgan and Coppin, and to have a trained person, a trainer there, to go and work with staff that may be having a little tough time reaching their young people, and being that point person for support and services. And I know one more thing, is a lot of things that's coming out in this, and because I face it every day. I mean, if I told you some of the horror stories that comes out, from the mental health is real. So not just the youth mental health first aid, which we focus on the youth. We have a lot of parents who have mental health challenges, and we're talking about diagnosed and undiagnosed, and to be able to go ahead and a young person is in a fight, and the parent just over the top, and it's not just your regular over the top. You can say, okay, something's going on here, but just being able to go ahead and give them resources and help them out. This is gaudy, but it is definitely needed. To be able to assist and aid and resource.
Hi, Court. Hi, I'm Lenora. Davis, I'm
How you
also
doing?
mental health first aid. Hello, instructor
you
for
doing?
youth and adults. And I agree. I'm so excited about this and the opportunity to do that, because it's so well needed. I remember when I went to the initial trainings before I became a TOT, and just being able to ask questions that I was ignorant about, thinking that it may provoke someone to do something. So that's how powerful that training is. And Corey, you did a great explanation of what mental health first aid is. We have to reach the kids, the adults, the schools. Like, people just need to know how to have those conversations. I literally had a conversation with someone I know today that said, I need to talk. And when I called her, she said, I'm feeling depressed because of what I just went through. And immediately, I'm just so glad that I have those tools in my toolbox to be able to help and lead and guide and just support people, because it's becoming more of a normal part of our conversation because of COVID. And I'm so glad of that. And if we can get this word out and spread it some more so people can have those open and honest conversations, that would be awesome. And it would heal a lot of people, because as we know, some people don't talk about it. So just to be able to have people have those open and honest conversations and be okay with that, I'm so looking forward to that. So thank you.
Agreed. I had a conversation with one of the family members of Jeremiah, who was at Mervo, who was killed. And, she really wanted to get down there because she said, the week later, a young man died of suicide there. So she really wants to be brought to Mervo and that community. So I think the opportunities to do that. But then as she and I were talking, she talks about parents are people too, teachers are people too. So if it's all about the kids, we can't lose ourselves to talk about the kids, because if it's about them, then sometimes that's a weight. So I think that mental health first aid, or talking about it, is as much for supporting the kids as us supporting each other. Like Kyla was saying, you could see that on our face. So it doesn't have to be a diagnosed mental illness, but it's the weight that we all carry. And sometimes the things we see with the kids, because I worked in residential treatment, juvenile justice, special education, and all those years you end up seeing kids end up in jail, buried, all that, but then what's good about it? So you got to take care of yourself so you can see what's good about us as individuals, but the community as well. And that's why I think you got to do teachers, maybe even adult and youth, and the parents, because parents that say, a lot of the work I do, people end up saying, we're talking about other people, but I see this in myself. And sometimes we get addicted to helping other people as a means of healing ourselves. If we don't take care of ourselves as individuals, then it makes it harder to really support, whether it's the youth or neighbors or family members. So this is a real opportunity to create a positive social epidemic of wellness.
Yeah, and I like what you said, as far as the adults, the first responders, and you have to go ahead and make sure that you have self-care. It's never enough self-care, but through youth mental health and adult mental health, it talks about a lot about self-care, so you can be that trusted adult to lean on when a young person has come to you with a challenge. And and it also everything is not a mental health, as we also know from being trained in this, that people can have other addictions, and alcohol, or drug addictions, and it helps to go ahead and know the resources, know where to go, know that you're not alone, know that it's an ecosystem, and it's a whole lot of varying help, and even to know the website, to know where to go, and okay, you can get help here and help here. So it's a big it's really amazing that we're embarking upon getting everybody trained, and right now is the BCP schools, but we want to go and get all of Baltimore, all the Baltimore schools, and and that with the parents and the churches, just an ecosystem where everybody is trained and teaching to love the team, being able to go ahead for teams to be able to train other teams, and to be able to look for what's going on. Because as we say, we would like to both believe that the trusted adult is always the first person to know, but we know the young people, they communicate and they go and say, I'm feeling this way. I don't know how many times I go, Mr. Witherspoon, I hear this, and a young person to say this is going on with a young person, and I'm able to help. And I might see a young person with a note, and it was a whole bunch of angry and sad things. Where I know through mental health first aid, it teaches me to go and take this young person to a clinician. Everybody else will try to go and solve them themselves. And if they're solving themselves, they're not a clinician, so they can make the problem even worse. So being able to know exactly what to do immediately, timely, therefore, you know, that we know that mental health first aid, we're not the clinicians. We don't know everything, but we do know where to go. Hey, Mark.
What's going on, family? Thank you for sending me the right link because I was locked out. I'm shooting down the Beltway from my son's JV football game. My apologies for my camera not being on. But I think one thing you said that is profound, and I tell people all the time, I'm blessed that I have a mental health agency, but I tell people I lead with, I am not a clinician. I'm trained in a lot of things, but I'm not a clinician. So I know where my help can start and stop, and when I need to lean on my partners who are clinicians, right? And refer people out to them and the other therapists that work with us. Knowing your limit of assistance is a big deal, right? But I think having mental health first aid is amazing for the community. But I did have one question. Is it going to be a concerted effort in a zip code to get those different places, like you said, the churches, the other active community members, as well as the school, and try to see how we can improve a zip code? Or is it to scale and just go to 2 or 3 different schools? Like, what's the logistics behind it?
Well, I can go ahead and answer that question. We have a great community organizer and community advocate for Pimlico Elementary Middle School. And so I'm going to get with Karen Rivera. As soon as I get to the school and be like, hey, we have this in the works. So whereas, you know, I can go ahead and push it from my end to make sure, you know, hey, we can go and get the churches and the community centers and the rec centers. We can go ahead and give a good push so they can go ahead. So, you know, from what I'll say is that I'll definitely go ahead and push the baton to make sure that, you know, all the trained in 21215, the Park Heights community.
Okay,
And also, I like to go and say is that, you know, Dave, that would be a great way to go ahead and go as well. Whereas, you know, every school has a community like organizer, a community advocate. Schools have become first community schools. I don't know when it kicked off, but it's become a big thing in Baltimore. And you know, because they've done, you know, because we understand that, you know, it takes a village, you know, to make sure that we're sustaining the young people. And then on top of that, what community schools is, it gives resources out to the mom and the dad, you know, who might not be working, or they might need food, or they might need other resources. So, you know, getting with the community school coordinators, and they can go ahead and make sure, you know, that the services is being delivered, whether it's making sure that the churches, the community centers, rec centers, and the ecosystem that the child and the adult is around, and make sure all.
Agreed. Yeah, I just launched, because part of the work I do is for my own nonprofit, a fundraiser, a goal to pay for up to 2,000 people to get trained in the next year. So I'm trying to raise that money, and then yes, and so we figure it costs about $110,000. We're about 1% in after a day, but that's good. But if we do that, then, you know, the goal is to do it around hubs and primarily schools, so that we can do, you know, go to whether it's Pimlico Middle and then another school, and then it's all the staff, all the parents get it, and then around those, because you want to have a base and operation where people are connected. Because people, you know, want help, but they don't want to go to get help. They want help where they go, where they're comfortable. And that's what we want to do, is create communities of support, not communities where you got to go out to do that. So that's what's really important. And the more we can promote social connectedness, you know, it has all those better off outcomes also, while reducing some of the negative outcomes.
And also, you know, and that's where I'll go back to train. Like, that's taxing. 2,000 people trained. So like, just to have like say you have in a 2122, 21217, you have a train to train, trainer in that community. And 21215, you have a train to trainer. 21229, you have a train to trainer. So, so it's not as taxing and it's doable. Again, 2000, anything is doable when you put your mind to it. But when we talk about benchmarks, something that's attainable, it's good to have help. And that's why I said, like, make as much people's trainers in each community as possible. Therefore, they can go ahead and assist. And Brendan, I haven't heard from you, great people. So, please feel free to chime in.
No, this is all great. I mean, Corey, I appreciate you leading the conversation. I would just, echo the need and the excitement. I was actually at Mervo yesterday. We did a trauma-informed care mini training for the teachers and staff, and there's a lot of demand, if you will, for how we can better provide and listen. And it doesn't have to be everyone being a clinician, right? It can be the part that we can all do to just identify what some of these feelings and actions may be, where they may be coming from, and respond appropriately. And if a given individual is not the right person to handle that, know where to go. So we're very excited about this, and appreciate you guys jumping on to talk about how to roll this out with us. I myself actually did one of the trainings with Corey back in June, and just found it to be a really a lot more useful than the average training you have. Really gives you some things to think about right away, and immediately change kind of how you proceed with the youth. So
yeah, and that's pin on you. It really changed your perspective, how to go ahead and act with the youth, that's in crisis, and maybe zoning towards that level. So that's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Brendan. Tamar, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. And I'm really excited about this too. It's really nice to meet you both, Dave and Lenora. And yeah, I'm excited. Corey, thank you so much for all the leadership on this.
Again, of course, me and Brendan, we took it. And like I said, I was a trainer, and I've been doing this from this aspect for a while, and it really helps. And just for people who's on the line, well, everybody pretty much, but for the listeners, just to know that the young people and the adults, just to have a trusted adult. And the philosophy of mental health first aid is it teaches you almost everything. The reason why it's so important also is because there's a lack of clinicians in school, a lack of Black mental health clinicians in school, and it's needed to who else a young person going to come to that's on the front line, that's going to be able to reach a young person. There's no clinician in the building. It's only 2 clinicians into maybe a 600, 700 population school. So you need your boots on the ground. You need your first responder. You need your teachers. You need your receptionists. You need your principals. You need everybody that's working in that school to be, on point when it comes to work with young people who might be exhibiting a mental health crisis, or might need services. So again, we don't know. I got you, Mark. We don't know all the answers. Of course, we don't know, but being able to refer a young person to a mental health clinician, it makes a whole lot of it's only great for the young person that we work with, or even the adult, the teacher, because the teacher might need help as well. Mark.
Yeah, question. So how, one, this is awesome, right? So I got two questions. One, how in the world does Miss Lenora work with Dave? Dave is impossible to work with. I don't know what his problem is, but he, I'm Dave's awesome. We used to be neighbors. No, seriously. But what mental health first aid really works because it delves into not just the academic part, but the practical application. And that's huge, right? So like you said, all boots on the ground can utilize it, like from cafeteria people all the way to the principals. How do we get, how we intended to deliver it through a professional development day? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
And how,
hey, Dave, I want you to go and chime in, Lenore as well. So at Pimlico, for example, we're going to go and utilize a PD day. What was it? I believe my principal said March 17th. I'll go ahead and look at exactly what she said, but I know we have a PD day March 17th. So that's the day that we dedicated towards mental health first aid. I do know, if I'm not mistaken, there's an 8-hour training. Dave, Lenore hooked me up, and I'm about to go ahead and shut up. But I believe it's like an 8-hour training. That's going to go ahead and be enough to help train the staff at Pimlico Elementary Middle School.
So it depends. There are a couple different ways to deliver it. If it's blended in person, people do 2 hours of pre-work, online, self-paced, and then you can finish in about 6.5 hours in person. So it could be a total of 8. So that would be good, I think, for the staff. In terms of for everybody else, like I do a lot, certainly through COVID and afterwards, that's virtual. But the other thing is I teach classes evenings, weekends. It can't be, I mean, for the staff, and I don't want to say you kind of got an audience, a trap there, but for everybody else, it's not a matter of when I'm available, it's when they're available. So we will do evenings, weekends, break it up over 2 days within reason. We want to make sure that, people get what they need, not what we want. So there's that flexibility as well. But it sounds like, Corey, you have a plan for the staff. For everybody else, we want to make it available any way they can access it. Because it can be done completely virtually too.
does Miss Lenora have any answer for me in how she works with Mr. Dave? How does she bear with him?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I actually don't work with Dave.
Oh, I went back on mute.
I don't work
There we
with
go.
Dave.
Oh.
I have a question. So will it always be during the day? Because I work during the day. So I would love to know if there would be some opportunities for maybe, well, because we're in the school system, it'll have to be during the day. Okay, I'll make the adjustment.
Well, the other thing, Laura, as I said, if we can get the opportunity to teach, in the community, families, that would probably necessarily be outside of the day, right?
Okay.
So it would be.
Dave, you're muted.
Sorry, I thought I'd look. So I said, if there's opportunity to work with to provide the classes for families, people in the neighborhood, that's going to necessitate it being evenings and weekends.
Yes.
And so there should be plenty of opportunity. And then, if it expands beyond Pimlico Middle, there's, all the different schools in the city, and then we want to drive that. But there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, and I think it has to be beyond the school day.
The school day.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's my alma mater.
Pimlico?
I'm not telling my age. Yes.
All
Pimlico
right.
Elementary, Pimlico Junior High.
Hey.
Yes.
So I want to go ahead and ask another question. Are we just rolling out the actual 1 day training, or can we, like, especially on the weekends or something like that, you know, for staff who may be interested, the trainer model, or we just doing the 8 hour, the course? Talk to me about that, Dave.
So the trainer, while I'm a trainer of trainers, that actually gets coordinated through the Mental Health Association of Maryland. And I would have to reach out with them, so that there are a couple of different ways. That's a 3-day course. And that's the ones I've been doing for like the HBCUs and other individuals. So that would be 3 days. It's typically going to be during the week. Though if you have a large enough group, I could probably convince them to do it on a weekend if that works. But each of those days is, like a 5 to 8 hour day. So it's 3 days and they're in a row. I think that's something we'd have to talk about. If that's what we want to do, whether you want to get in, 1 or 2 people trained, then they're going to have to join a class that exists. And, I can work with the Mental Health Association of Maryland through that. Or if there's a large enough group, we can create a group, train, and that might have some flexibility when the training.
What's large? What's the large group?
I think they generally want a minimum of 5 people, 5 to 7 people in a group of trainers.
We can do that.
Yeah.
All right.
And then each person, though, in order to maintain their training, has to teach a minimum of 3 classes a year.
Indeed. That's cool. Mark, you hear that?
Yeah, question. When's the next cohort? Because I want to be trained so I can train people. When's the next cohort, and where would that be happening?
So all the trainings so far are virtual. I don't know if let me look up real quick to see if they have one that is scheduled. The ones that I've been focused on are doing for the HBCUs, and so they kind of schedule those around. But let me see if they have any.
Because Mark, what we could do is, and this is feasible, this is very, very doable. We can go ahead and get seven men to go ahead and actually knock it out on the weekend. This is nothing. This is easy.
Right.
So
well, no, he said 3 days though, so it had to be like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of deal.
It's 3 days. And there's pre-work that has to be done, and I think it's $2,400 a person. I'm looking that up too.
Just go ahead and get us a voucher. Give us a scholarship. We make it happen.
All right.
Yeah, we'll definitely figure that out. That's worth the investment. You know what I'm thinking about right now as well, Corey, because we coordinate with and do work with More Than a Shop. So having barbers, braiders, and beauticians receive that training would be awesome.
That's the ecosystem. That's the ecosystem. Yes.
Exactly. So that would be awesome. So if I can get trained to teach, I can go into those beauty salons and barbershops that we already partner up with anyway and train them as well.
And Dave, that's going to go ahead and help meet the 2,000 number that you was talking about getting trained.
And the other thing is, I know SAMHSA just put in a ton of money for youth mental health programs. Now, where that's coming through the state is probably through the Behavioral Health Administration, but it should be in the millions of dollars. And that was just released in the last month. The other thing, though, is if you think about the colleges and universities that are closest to those schools, like especially the HBCUs, all of those trainers have to train, and that might be a good partnership as well. So they could participate in the trainer as you guys become trainers as well. Let me see here. I got the information.
So that's the money's given from SAMHSA. Technically, they can go ahead and pay for a trainer to get trained in mental health first aid.
Well, you'd have to find out who's getting the money in the state, but SAMHSA put it in, and it's probably going through the State Behavioral Health Administration, and then they make the determination of like where that money goes. But that money if you get to the right person in the policies, they probably could.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, we're gonna find out who would come through. I got Franny on right now. Franny is listening. Franny gonna take notes. Yeah, Brendan's also gonna take notes. We're gonna find out who has it, so we can go get our guys trained to train.
So there are trainings. This is full. There's one that's grant funded, which might mean that it's free, that, you know, in the end of January. Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat room too.
All right.
Thank you.
But, you know, if you want to do a cohort, let me know, because then I can reach out to them, because I do a lot of training for them.
We do.
Yeah,
We
there's
do.
Definitely.
one that's grant funded at the end of January and one that's not grant funded. But if there's a youth one in February, that you can create, you know, you can schedule ones with them if you have a large enough group. And then let me see if I can see the cost. I believe it's $2,400 a person. Oh no, it's $1,500 for individuals. If you want to do a private group of up to 16 people, it's $21,500. So you can do up to 16 or
we ain't doing-
$1,500 an individual.
We're not doing that many people, but that's a big number. But you said $1,500 to get a person trained to train and that actual group.
Yeah, I just put that second link as to that page. So it'd be, and then you'd be put in with other trainers, but if you wanted to do a group, you just let me know. And if you have even a small group, you can put that group in maybe with another one. But the dates are in the first link as well. But the commitment then is, in order to maintain certification, you have to teach a minimum of 3 classes a year.
Indeed.
The one for Tuesday, January the 24th to the 26th is sold out. That free one, that first free one is sold out.
One thing I would say, and Mark was talking about this, is I think as you go and get these trainings, is then talk about implementation. The follow-up. It's like the work I do with schools is great to know, but then how do you do it every day? We all say take care of yourself, and then we don't take care of ourselves until after a crisis. You have to build that in, and they can't be mandated birthday, you know, where we celebrate everybody's birthday. So you got to get that culture in there. It's some other things in schools, but I think that would be huge to create. This is a first step on a long but like hopefully pleasant journey, you know.
Indeed. I know we're coming on upon that time. Again, I want to thank everybody for the night. Definitely Dave and Lenora, thank y'all for y'all support. And thank y'all for y'all commitment to change.
Definitely. So I'll say this real quick. The March the 7th to March the 9th one is still available. So I'm about to register for that one now, because the other one, like I said, that's grant funded, was closed. So March 7th to March 9th. And it's
That
virtual.
Zoom person.
What's that?
Is that Zoom or in person? I'm about to go check it out in a second.
That's virtual. That's virtual.
Okay. All right.
And you may end up having me, so I'd like to apologize in advance if I'm your instructor.
No, so that's what everybody know. I went to training with Dave a couple months ago, and it was incredible. Time flew past. He was awesome. So I want to make sure that people know I was joking. Dave is incredible.
That's not a paid testimonial, though.
Not that is free. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Logging off. See ya.
Bye. Thank you all. This was great.
Take care.
Thank you all. Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.